Have you found yourself in a battle? One of the battles that I had was like getting sort of people competing to be the common key, right? That you had one group that had a key that they really liked their key, and they wanted to see that key adopted as the primary across the back to these human problems.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that?
Quite a bit, yes, in City. So that was for the first 2 years. That was my job in City.
Really?
So
really?
finding, identifying. So that was trying to address in data integration common keys problem top down. So define what the common key is, and then get everybody to adopt it all the way back to the source systems. So the first problem was exactly what you just spoke about. Obviously, everybody has their own common keys, and they don't want to change, and they want everybody else to use theirs.
Right. My key's the best. Why doesn't everybody just use it? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So golden source for client data, golden source for org data, golden source for country data, golden source. So the way we try to get around it. So of course, there is always somebody who yells the loudest or has the most support from the management. You know, let's be real, that's always a consideration. We try to put a little bit more process and structure around it, so somewhat more objective criteria of what would be authoritative source of data. So anywhere from what's your data coverage. So if you have an excellent key for 10% of securities that the company trades, and to get another 90% is going to take you 5 years, you're probably not the most effective common key. Right? Or if you have a common key that's not easily extensible, or you're not using industry identifiers or whatever. So there is that setup. And then there is a set of how's your change management. If somebody wants, in addition to common keys, usually those are repositories that have other information about whatever the entity that you have a common key for. So if you have organizational entity, you have things like industry codes, for example. So do you have a coverage of that type of data? And if you want, if there is a consumer of this data that needs an additional piece of information and you don't have it, how long is it going to take you to get it? What's the line out of your door? Is it going to take you 6 to 12 months? Because if it's 6 to 12 months, you're probably not a good candidate for being enterprise common key. So that's what we have tried to do, is to have some, to come to an agreement what would constitute an authoritative source. And it goes from technical to change management criteria, and then have that agreement in, and then use that as a criteria to say, out of that many people who have something like common keys, we're going to narrow it down. So did it always work? No, but it helped. It helped.
Well, it seems you've done this in practice, and based on our experience at Tamer, we just see a lot of companies that are just beginning the journey of even considering doing this kind of work. And it's amazing to hear the stories about doing this in practice at large scale. Seems very, very challenging. What about integrating third-party data? How do you think about that at Voya, and how have you seen that done in the past? Obviously, a completely different set of issues involved when you have lots of third-party data coming in versus data you're generating internally. What are the practices around third-party data that you think are most effective?
Well, have a lot of leverage with your data supplier helps a great deal. The best way to integrate third-party data is when you can provide or there is also either the common format or industry accepted, the layout, industry accepted definition, data dictionary, and so on. Or you can say, here is how we want the data from you. The first job that I talked about when I started managing data, that was actually reference data, pool level data coming from multiple external suppliers. So that's where, if I cut my teeth on managing data, enterprise data environment is loading external data in. For mortgage security, single class and multi-class. I don't know how many people here, in this audience will remember Intex data set. I think it's probably still there. It was an interesting data set to work with. So I think one of the easiest, or one of the ways that really help to deal with the external data, is to have industry standards. So you at least somewhat get past that problem of common keys. Again, common keys is back to that, because you have data dictionaries, usually external data, you have pretty good data dictionaries that go with that. But again, the work of, if you want to work this data set with the other one, you go back to the same problem. So well-defined data dictionaries, that's not in here. It's, I think, on your side.
I think it is on my side.
Are you in Boston?
Sorry. Yes, Cambridge, yes.
Sorry. All right. Yeah, I'm in New York. No, that's okay. I'm just like, no, I don't think it's here. Well-defined data dictionaries, well-defined data quality rules, accountability on the part of vendor to define and provide data quality information, and accountability to fix data quality on the data has not come through. How successful you are with that, it depends. But from my experience, that's pretty much the only thing that helps. It's following the industry standards, and having well-defined data dictionary, and making sure the vendor accepts full accountability for data quality and for fixing data quality in a reasonable time frame.
So in the data standards in financial services, I mean, you've had lots of experience with this. Like, do you feel like there are standards that have worked well, and are there reasons you think that they've worked well, or ones that are particularly bad, and why they may have failed?
I think so definition of the standards, and it's actually the same either external industry standard or internal, for example, for city. Definition of the standard is difficult work where you have to have a lot of parties come together and agree on the standard. However, the hard part is adoption of the standard. So LEI standard, for example, and it's been a while since I've been kind of in the midst of LEI work, and I think you have women on your list that actually much more in depth on that. So I'm very much kind of an outside on that. But what I have seen, standards itself is pretty good. It's adoption of the standard by a wide variety of companies. So, and there is a requirement that to trade, you need to have an LAI identified, but a lot of small companies don't need to. And then if you're trying to source this data and have LAI identify as your common key, you have a pretty large footprint that does not have that. So that's the problem. I think it's not so much creation of the standard. It's adoption of that standard by broad enough community, so it's actually valuable, and it doesn't become yet another key that you have to build a mapping against.
Yeah, it's at some level, like these standards can make the problem worse, not better, right?
Well, yeah, it's yet another, I think on the security side, like ISIN, QSIPs, those are pretty good standards. I mean, they're pretty prevalent, and they have a reasonably good coverage. Of course, QSIP would be better if they didn't reuse the QSIPs, but that's my personal pet peeve.
Right. Yeah. It's every one of these things has there's like physics to it, right? There are strengths and weaknesses associated with them and how they're designed. So a little bit more on the personal side, as you think about your career and going, this is kind of like the age of data is kind of happening, and you're sort of at the center of it. How do you think, about the next, 3 to 5 to 10 years of your career, and the kinds of things you're most interested in?
So I don't think, I'm really enjoying right now that I'm not only doing data, I'm also responsible for enterprise architecture and Salesforce. And I think my background in data, especially in terms of digital transformation, so if you think around digital transformation, the way I define digital transformation is removing of friction in operations of the company, all the way from communication with the customers, all the way back to financial reporting. So it's end to end. It's not only UX experience of the customer, but it's operational experience, it's financial reporting experience, it's analytics experience. So it's removing of the friction. And removing friction that we usually have is manual work to enter data, to remove data, to move things around. And that's why I think my background of understanding how the data moves and what do we need to do to make it frictionless comes into place. So that's something that I'm looking forward to be able to do it on a broader scale. similar to what the plans we have around the Salesforce projects that we have, again, removing a lot of manual intervention to normalize how we deal with data, to provide much broader reporting using both Salesforce data, external data, third-party data, other internal data from Voya to improve our business outcomes, taking it on a broader scale. So I think it's a lot of what I would like to do in the next 3 to 5 years. In 10 years, I'm hoping I'll be retired as in teaching.
Okay.
That's what I would like to get to, is just to take it broader, that not only building the data platform, but looking at it end to end.
Well, it seems like the time has come that people with the data backgrounds are especially like yourself with the focus on consumption, providing the context for how and why we should organize our